Now then, good to see you again. What have we got today? Well, this has been sat on my workbench for quite a while. I picked it up like you do, and some kindly soul has just chopped the cable off flush. There was a belt on it, but it was pretty destroyed. Yeah, so that's one part of the story, and we're going to have some of it apart to be able to put a cable on it to check whether it works. But the other part of the story is I was clearing out some of Sam's workshop, and these were in there, and they're the right belt, and he's never going to use them again, and they would end up in the tip otherwise. So is that an omen or what? So the first thing to do is get the camera down here and let's just see how we get this apart. Okay, well, it looks fairly straightforward actually, but it does actually look like I'm going to have to take all of these screws out. But they are, first of all, they're not recessed too deep. Secondly, the holes with the recess are fairly large diameter compared to other things I've come across. You know, you get a very narrow hole and a security screw right down the bottom of it, where you can't get your normal security screw attachments down. Yeah. Anyway, this looks about all right. So I'm just going to go round. Some of these screws are a bit rusty, but I'm going to go round off camera and loosen these off, and then let's see what happens. Or perhaps I should show you me undoing these. This is my favourite red screwdriver. It's a Stanley. I've had it for a long time. Can we see all right? Yes, we can. You know how you just get favourite tools? It's the one that doesn't seem to slip, and it doesn't seem to let you down, and you can't remember how you came across it. I mean, a lot of my tools have come from, hate to say this, but dead men's sheds. Got a lot of Uncle Harold stuff, and some of you may know that I've actually got his power hacksaw that he made as an apprentice. I really treasure that, and there's a couple of videos about it. And there was a lot of stuff in Uncle Harold's shed that would have ended up in the tip, thrown away, if I hadn't rescued it. Which is heartbreaking in a lot of ways. But modern society doesn't see the value, or so it seems. Yeah, I might be just a bit cynical, and actually people do see the value, but just can't be asked to do anything about it, because they're all on this mad rush to nirvana. Yeah, the place where they all want to be, where it's all going to be glorious. Right, let's turn this over. Well, haven't got all the screws out. They haven't come out, but from what I see, all the screws are the same size. So well done for whoever designed this. I'm much approving. Right, oh, there we go. Ah, That's not difficult, is it? Wow. Yeah. I think this, let's just have a zoom down on that. That was not difficult at all. There's a little module here which is a speed controller. There's a roller on the other side. There's the mains power in, there's the switch, there's a suppressor. Yeah, that little noise there, let me just turn this round. Right, well there's a belt underneath there. So obviously without having the bearing on this side to support it, there's the armature will rub on the stampings of the stator. Now, are we in view? We are in view. So let us just undo these screws. It'd be nice if that was the same size screw as well. It's not. So there we go. So this one's a longer screw. It's quite long. Ah, oh well. Now, why won't that come off? I wonder if there's a screw underneath that label. Hello? There's a screw underneath that label. So we'll undo that screw. That's a bit sneaky. And there's the belt. So there you go. Okay, it's another day. I had to go off and do things. So I've dug in amongst my collection of bits and we've found another cable, and so effectively what we need to do is we need to change this power cable. That looks like the same size screws as the side case. Brilliant. Okay, we need just lift that out there and pull that off. Good. And then this lifts out. We only want to lift it out a little way, and there's some screws there, blue to the top. Okay. Right. Very good. So about that long. Gently tarnation. Oh. I just caught the brown there. There we go. Okay. They were that long. Okay, so brown to the bottom. Good. Blue to the top. Push that back down in there. Put that. You know what I've gone and done? You know exactly what I've gone and done, don't you? Yeah, and it's so easy to do. Yeah, this has got a moulded plug on it, on this cable. It's like, do you remember those Duralite rubber plugs where the top had a moulded hole through it? And you always wired the plug up and then go, ah. And you had to unwire it or de-wire it to get the top on. There we go. And then sometimes you'd get hold of a piece of equipment, especially the old-fashioned lead lights, and they would have a rubber plug on the end, and you could see somebody had rewired it at some point and done the very same thing, but instead of having it apart again, they just chop through the little hole in the top where the cable went through, so they could feed the cable through. Right, where are we? I think that went. Did it go in there or did it go in there? It went in there. That'll do. Right, put the cable grip on and then put the side on. I mean, this is a cheap and cheerful belt sander, but it's lightweight, so for certain jobs it's probably just right. So we put this on there, and we have these dowels there that align everything with this motor bearing and the bearing housing. There we go. Right. Tighten the screws up. Remember what Jeff Bradshaw says? Start them all before you tighten any. Wrong one. I think. Yeah. It's always very tricky filming this sort of stuff. Very easy to drift out of shot. Right, where are we? There, good. Right, I've got three. One. Has that got a screw in it? It has. That's got a screw. That's a. Yeah. So we've got one screw, the small head, which goes on the belt cover. Good. Oh, it's great that you can get to the screws easily, and it's great that they're not those confounded security screws. The security screws on that booster jump start pack were a complete pain in the neck. Triangular and down the bottom of a very narrow hole. Come on. There we go. Got it. So I'm hoping, well, I know that because the bearing and everything will be aligned. There, they're all tight. Then this will spin easily. Yep. Okay. Yep, good. Excellent. Excellent. Now, before we go any further, it's got a 13 amp fuse in this. Stick it round to continuity. Good. Excellent. Just dropped something. The snips have just gone wander about. Let me just pick those up. Okay. Before we go any further, let's plug this in. Excellent, excellent. That does work. Yep. Just make sure. These motor housing screws are tight. Yep. Good. Okay. So now then, in here, let me see, yeah, there you go, in there, looks like there's a brush housing, and it would be worth just checking those. I mean, it's great that you can access the brushes without having to take it all apart. Oh yeah, they're quite good. Yeah, they're not worn down to nothing. There we go. Okay, let's have this one out whilst we're here, because we can. That's got plenty of spring on it, so I'm assuming that it's fine. Yep. Brilliant. And back in this square hole, which is a bit tricky with the camera in the way. There we go. There, here we go. Here's the plug. Right. Now, considering this was in a pile of scrap, I just find it, yeah, weird. I mean, 30 years ago, I would have considered this just the most amazing bit of kit. I mean, I've still got that big Makita, and I did the video on a bit of a rebuild on that. Yeah. But yeah, this is half the weight, which, I mean, the Makita's great because it presses down, it's got its own gravity. Yeah, and it's a 4-inch, this is a 3-inch belt sander. But even so, you know, 30 years ago, I would have just classed this as absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Now, this front roller here spins very nicely and doesn't seem to be a problem. Yeah, there's a circlip there, so if I wanted to, I could probably have that apart if I wanted to, and there's a couple of screws there and there, which obviously lifts this off, and then I can get to that if I wanted to. And the other interesting thing is behind here there's actually a gearbox, because the roller here is not in line with that, so there's a gearbox in that, and you can hear the slop in that. So at some point it might be very good to have that apart. Undo this nut, take the pulley off, take this off, get to that gearbox and lubricate it. But at the moment it's a matter of trying this, making sure it's fit for purpose and what have you. So I think the long screw went there and the short one there. I'm virtually sure I'm right. So yeah, it was thrown away. Yeah. It would not have been very long before it would have been crushed. And apparently, so it seems, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just, the only thing wrong was that nobody wanted it. Maybe somebody had bought it for one job and then it's like, oh, I don't want that anymore. Or it came out of a dead man's shed. Right, this plate, I assume that plate is a wear part. I just want to, right, you can't see, this plate here, I'm assuming it's a wear part. It's a bit rusty, so I just want to run a bit of emery paper or something on that. So just cleaning that up. That way it won't damage the back of the belt so much. So I'm just going to show you the label, but this is an Extreme I suspect it is just a generic belt sander made by all sorts of, or made by one company and badged for all sorts of names and what have you. There we go. Made in the PRC. And of course it's called an Extreme, which it isn't at all. 900 watts. That's a useful. What does that say? 2 to 300. Is it 300? 2 to 380 revs, because, let me zoom out, somewhere, I saw it somewhere, there, yeah, just here, there seems to be a speed controller of some form. Yeah. So I suppose the only thing to do now is just to see what it's like with a new belt on it. I'll just sand a bit of the table. I mean, ideally what I'd like to do is form something that fits over there that will then go to a shop vac or a Henry or something like that, just to catch all the dust. And there's a bit of broken glass there, we don't want that going in the motor. Right, give us a minute. Okay, for those people who don't know anything about belt sanders, the belt travels that way. So if you're holding it, it travels towards you on the bottom. And there's a little arrow there, and then inside the belt there's an arrow. And so therefore you must put it on with the arrow facing with the arrow, and it's purely about the join. This one overlaps that. If you have it this way, then you're sanding against that edge and it will rip that joint apart. So you've got to have it the right way around. So put that on there. Lift this little lever up to remove the tension, and then lower the lever. That's it. Wow. Okay. Get rid of that bit of glass and that bit of solder and that bit of wire. Brush the muck off. Okay, contact. And there is a lock button there for the throttle. Right, let's just see. That's on 3. Let's put it on 5, see if it makes any difference. Right, well, the speed controller works, the belt sander works, the belts from Sam's Shed, absolutely perfect. Yeah, it's another good working tool. Lightweight, so you can just do little bits, whereas the Makita is great for big lumps, but this will be a lot easier for lifting and holding and using that point there just to get in little bits. Hope you found this interesting. Just goes to show that a little bit of perseverance and interest, and there you go. So I think it's beholden upon everybody not to throw things away, yeah, and at least give them away or take them to the boot sale or something like that. Don't just cut the wire off and throw it away. It's just a waste of resources. Rant over on that one. Anyway, comments and what have you. Yeah, always interested to hear what you have to say. If you go, these are a pile of junk, well, they may be for certain jobs, but for other ones, for lightweight jobs, it's just probably perfect. Catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.